So welcome, Tanna, to the Mydoma webinar series. We're so excited to have you and to learn some really great actionable tips with you about doubling your business with rendering and with Mydoma. So I'm going to hand it off to you. I'll just stop my video and then we'll go through your slides.
Sounds great. Yes, we had a little bit of a technical issue, so I'm gathering my thoughts here. Always me. So first of all, before we get started, I just want to do a shout out to Rebecca. She put this slide together and it is absolutely beautiful. She included pictures from our portfolio, renders before, pictures as well, and it's just gorgeous. So, you know, props to Rebecca. So I just wanted to start by introducing myself. This is me. I love that. And I am Tanna by design, Tanna Edler. We are a full service interior design firm based near Yakima, Washington with projects nationwide. And I specialize in both residential and commercial projects, new construction, remodeling, and furniture and styling. And I am a solopreneur and I've been in business about 11 years. And I also forgot to mention that I'm letting Rebecca take the wheel. So you'll hear me say, next, please, on each slide. Okay, so we have a lot to cover. And sorry, we're a couple minutes late. This is a heavy title and there's so much information. So I just wanted to go over an agenda really quickly. I am going to do a career timeline and my business transformation really quick just to set the stage. And then we are going to spend the bulk of our conversation today on my 6-step process and how it ties in with Mydoma. And then we'll wrap up with talking about some additional income generated through eDesign and the virtual platform. Next, please. Okay, so timeline, make this short and sweet. So left college with a marketing degree, went to Seattle and worked for a human resources company in their marketing and sales department. Stayed there about 15 years, perfected my craft and my process and moved into heading the training and development department, which I loved. But there was always this passion of design pulling me. So after that term, I thought, well, I'm just gonna leave this and start design and hang my shingle up. And that really isn't how it happened. So what I thought might take a few months ended up taking a few years plus. So during this time, I was taking classes and going to showrooms and doing webinars, visiting design centers, everything you can imagine. And then finally, I decided that maybe I should supplement my income a little bit. So I got a part-time job with a company in the recycling industry. And my job was to help residential and commercial contractors achieve their LEED and Built Green status. And it was life-changing. So I was meeting with a sustainability council every week in Seattle, and I learned so much, and that still plays a big part in my design today. And so then I thought, okay, I think I'm almost ready. And then we decided with my family to buy a fixer-upper. So we did that, took it down to the studs. I actually hired an interior designer to kind of help me learn the different ins and outs of ordering product and whatnot. And we were like, okay, it's it. And then in 2010, we decided to build a new house ourselves. And I said, okay, give me the reins, I'm doing it. So from the start to finish, actually working with the architect, plan development, all the way up to putting the pillow in the corner. I did that, and that was my calling card. We put it on the tour of homes. It won Best Primary Suite. And, you know, I thought, oh, the rest is history. So years 1 and 2, we're like, why didn't I do this sooner? Years 3 and 4, we're like, oh, I need to have a process. I need to sit in the office and do some paperwork. And year 5 and 6 were as my husband would say, the holy faith years. It was just crazy. Business was flying in from everywhere. Profits were out the roof. We thought, geez, this is a lucrative business. We're so excited. And then years 7 and 8, I was done. I was so overwhelmed. I just couldn't do it any longer. And it sounds crazy, but I've been working so hard to try to get all this back end figured out. I just didn't think I could do it. So I'm sitting on my sofa. It's the beginning of 2020. All these things are happening. The pandemic hits. I'm worried. And all of a sudden I see this email from IDS, and it's talking about this Mydoma and the 19 hours and all these industry leaders pulling together to help us navigate what's going on. And I think, oh, you know, maybe this is it. So I signed up, and that's kind of the whole catalyst to our conversation today. The rest is history. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this business management tool. And it's a little side note, we don't have time for it today, but If you haven't been over to Luann Nigera and a Well-Designed Business podcast and listened to episode 818, I talk about the 7 strategic tools and I guess lessons I implemented to help turn my business around. So it might be worth a listen if you get a chance. And then just to kind of tap into where I am today, and I pulled some stats. So when we did that podcast, I pulled stats of what was happening in the business the last couple of years, and we had witnessed a 250% increase in traffic to our website. We had about 100,000 hits, and things were just going crazy. So for this purpose, I decided to pull numbers again just to see a little prelim. So since September, I guess that'd be almost less than 8 weeks, we've had a 370% increase in traffic and an increase of 125,000 people hitting our site. And so just in that short 7 weeks, we've had almost 30,000 people increase as far as traffic. So it's exciting. I just wanted to throw those stats out, and now let's just get into the nitty gritty. Next. All right, so before Mydoma and the 3D rendering, I kind of alluded to what was happening. It was chaotic and I was in overwhelm. Business was great and that was wonderful, but I was getting calls for every avenue, traditionally on the phone, DMs on Instagram, text messages, you name it. And I just could not handle all the content and the contact. I didn't have a vetting process, so I didn't know what to do with these calls when they're all coming in. I was doing all of my renderings by hand. Now, I have clients to this day that still have them framed in their homes because they love them, and they were gorgeous, but they were taking me weeks on end to finish. I didn't have a way of accepting payments. I was using the Square app, but there's nothing wrong with that, but it was on my phone. And when I would get out of service of where my client was and it wouldn't work, I'd have to drive back into the city and then charge them after the fact. Sometimes even having to call them back to get their number again over the phone. I mean, there's crazy, obnoxious, embarrassing things. But after Mydoma, next, I guess the way to sum it up is literally Mydoma has automated and streamlined all of my daily activities so that now I can concentrate on my craft and design. And I mentioned this, and it's a big, big, big statement, but my hours have reduced and my income has doubled. And we'll unravel how that income has doubled as we continue throughout the presentation. But just to kind of give you a window into this, prior to Mydoma, I was working 7 days a week, 8 to 8, and no joke. So the weekends actually were my sanctuary because things weren't happening. The phone wasn't ringing. So I think I would work, 7 to midnight. It was crazy. And what I realized is I didn't need to work that long. It wasn't because I had so much business I had to work 7 days a week. And so what I did is I thought, okay, all I'm going to do, and here's my secret sauce, all I'm going to do is concentrate on revenue generating activities, and anything that does not apply, I'm either going to eliminate or I'm going to outsource. So that's the kind of the secret. And so I reduced my hours, and now my hours are 9 to 4, 4 days a week. And I have each day allotted to a certain task. And then a little bit about the conversion rate and such. Mostly, this is just a window into Mydoma and being able to capture reporting in seconds. I didn't have that luxury before. And this was a number that I pulled for 21, and I'm about to pull that number for 22. And I also just did a little prelim just to kind of see, and that number is looking like my conversion rate is 61% for 22, which is awesome. However, my total discovery calls are coming down. So we'll talk about this a little bit more and why that's happening. So that's my goal, is to discovery calls go down and conversions go up. So every time I get a call, it's this big, yummy client that I want. All right, next. All right, now we're going to talk about how you can do this. We're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to go through the processes and how those tie with Mydoma, and just high level comment on this. We know that processes, we won't have time to talk about this in an hour or even a day or a week or even a year maybe. There's so much that goes into developing processes. So we're going to concentrate today just in how that works with Mydoma, and know that there's going to be time for questions afterwards, but there's also going to be options that if we need to continue the conversation, we can do that together too. Okay, next. Okay, so using Mydoma to streamline processes is that's like my motto for the last since 2020. And these six steps are my steps, and we call this the TBD technique. And you'll also hear me say we. There is no we. It's me, myself, and I. But I don't know why. There's no I in team, right? So I constantly say we. And we also includes all of the strategic partners that I've included, and I'll kind of allude to those as we go through. So I'll talk about these really quickly, and then we'll deep dive into each one. So discovery, that's let's engage. That is that time where I'm in my vetting world. I'm getting to know my client, my potential client. Is this someone that we want to work with? Do they want to work with me? And it's that big vetting process, including the complimentary call and initial design consultation, which we'll talk about. The next is the onboarding, and that's let's get started. And this is such a big step for me. And we'll talk about this, but I think of this as joining a special club or an elite group. I mean, this is a huge step, and it can be easily missed, and it's a great one to really hone in on to uncover any information that might turn into an objection later. And then step 3 is the concept. That's let's create. That's when we start getting into using the different tools within the visualizer. Execute is let's design. By this stage, we have already decided what we're doing. There should be no surprises, and you have full 100% commitment. Procurement, they pay everything up front. We purchase everything in Mydoma. Completion, another huge stage, and that's when we finish up with our project close. All right, so let's go into the first. And I'm going to take a little sip of water. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit slower. I got through that stuff. All right, so discovery. So again, this is our first step. And this is the stage that we are really doing that vetting that I talked about. Remember before, I didn't have that process. I didn't have the opportunity to capture that information. So when I set this together with Mydoma, I thought, I need something that's just one single thing, something that's super easy for my client and for me. I want one place for them to go, and I want it to be very descriptive and clear, tons of clarity so there are no mistakes. And then I don't have to worry, and I can sleep at night about all these calls and trying to get back. So that's where it started, with a discovery call, and that is through Mydoma with a package. And that package link is everywhere. It's the only place that you can reach me. So if they find me on the internet and they go to my contact page on my website, they get a nice receipt email that has the complimentary discovery call link in it. It has the description. It asks them to fill out a questionnaire to help me prepare for our conversation. Then it requests that they go to the calendar and pick out whatever day works for them, and I will call them. And so it just is very clear as to what will happen. When they get that discovery call link, they have a 2-pronged process. They'll also see on that link step 2, which is the initial design consultation. And after the discovery call, all of my clients go through a 90-minute initial design consultation. And that, again, is through Mydoma. They pay first. And we're still in this kind of prospecting stage. So we still have the opportunity to break by each party. So I keep that in mind. I'm also using this, I've got my sales 101 hat on. I'm also using this as a deep dive. So when I go out, I'm taking measurements, I'm taking pictures, I'm talking about their project, I'm getting a better idea of what they're looking for. And at the same time, I'm doing investment planning. I mean, I'm talking about the pricing, looking at their space, knowing the scale by measuring it, talking about using past experiences to predict future project pricing. So we're doing all of that in the case that this then converts to onboarding. Okay, thank you. So let's use this as a hypothetical. We're going to use my furniture and styling project for the example today. So after we have went out and done this completed this great initial design consultation, and at the close of that, we have decided that we both can work together and we move on to the onboarding. I have, this is interesting, a little thing right there. And so now we are, okay, sorry, you guys. We're phoning in, and I have a little situation coming in on my phone. I've never done that before. When you phone in, I need to put it on silent. I didn't do that. Sorry. Okay. So with the onboarding, this is what I wanted to talk about. I want to take a minute because it is so important. It's such an important moment in the process. And when we've been romancing and doing the prospecting with that client, and now we've done the vetting and we're bringing them into TBD, now they're part of Tanna by Design, it's such a big deal. And we really spend a lot of time with them to help them understand that now you're part. This is a big, big, big deal. And it sets the stage for them feeling that they are a part, that they're, you know, it's a gate to leaving. They don't want to leave now. It's a big, big, big part. So I just wanted to mention that. And I think I was listening to something the other day. I think Katie McFarland was on a webinar, and she's made a correlation to spa. And I kind of turned it into my own thought and thought, so spa treatment, you book way in advance, you pay in advance, so that when you arrive that day for your treatment or whatever you're doing at this luxury event, you don't have to worry about anything else. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We're setting the stage for that. So we're all in and showing them how important they are. And at the same time, bam, we're hitting them between the eyes with how we work, right? So we have very, very tight process. We have tight rules, and these are all the reasons why. But we're sandwiching it in this really, you know, you're servicing your socks off mentality, so that they know that, oh, okay, so these are all the reasons they need to do this, because this is going to benefit me. This is going to give me the best experience. So within this onboarding and how we use Mydoma, we have the templates for their contracts are in, they simply sign online, very easy. We have their welcome packet and their files and media that they go through, and they're required to sign as well. We have an onboarding video that we have them watch again. And then we have a couple other things. We have a Pinterest link that we have them add, so we can keep that on file. And we always give them something free. We give them a free paint palette. And so it's just this really nicety from the onboarding. Next. Okay, the next step is our concept. And this is let's create. So this is the time that we're one now, we're partners, and we're already having that buy-in from the client, that this is so exciting. Now I'm part of this really important luxury design service. They're going to do the best thing for me. They're going to give me the best experience. So this is our launch meeting. So when we say launch, we use these words as keywords to really help them understand that you're in now, right? You're past go, you're all the way in. And so we do our ideation session, and ideation is generation, selection, and development. So we are generating the ideas, we are selecting the finishes, and we are developing that preliminary design plan. Now, we have already been, since they have onboarded, we've already been in their project in Mydoma, and we have already started using the Mydoma clipper to put into their catalog items that we know are going to work for this design. And so we've already been doing that. And now when we go to this actual concept meeting, we have their vision board built out, and we'll bring our iPad. And this is another opportunity too, to sit side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and show them how to use the Mydoma app. So on their iPad or on their phone, we'll show them too, so they can actually see their mood board. Now, while we were creating their mood board, there's a little switch, so you can not be visible to client. So all the while after our initial design consultation, we were building that out. And then at the appointment, we can switch over and show them the actual mood board. So that's great. We're also starting to use the visualizer. Now, remember way back when we had that initial design consultation, on purpose, we were taking measurements and photos. So we already had that build out of what that space looked like. So we were starting to do our visualizer for our rendering. Now, at this appointment, we're not going to show the whole enchilada, but we will show maybe an aerial view. Maybe we'll do a flat lay 2D, or maybe we'll even show them a 3D wireframe. So they, again, just more buy-in, and they can understand this is really looking fantastic. So at the close of this meeting, we have shown them sample finishes. We've given them a window into what this is going to look like, the color palette. And now we're moving in to execute. Next step. So when we get into the execute stage, we actually now should have no surprises. This is let's design. So at this point, we have been talking about investment planning from the very, very initial meeting. There is no surprises for pricing. We have been talking about all the finishes, letting them touch the samples, looking at mood boards. They know exactly what to expect. So execute is our final design plan. And we often will do this via Zoom. So we'll finish our renderings into a 3D gorgeous 4K high-res finish, and those look absolutely beautiful when you're doing a presentation on the computer. So we'll put that together, and then I'll go on to the next slide. And we'll present, and at the close of that will be their actual purchase. Now, there's a couple different ways we can do this. So you've already been in your product clipper, you've had all of your items for your mood board in your catalog. Now you simply put those into a proposal in Mydoma, send that to your client, and then your client will then approve that proposal, which then generates their invoice. They pay their invoice in full, and then you start actually in the PO. Now, one little thing that I will mention that I do, and with the renderings, because they are life-changing for me, I now will price off my renderings. So another reason why, from the very beginning, I'm starting to introduce that look where we're talking about the space as a whole, we're talking about the mood board and the wireframe look as a whole, and then we will price our space by rendering as a whole. Next slide. And then when we move into procurement, which is finalized, so at the end of that execute stage, they have then committed to, all right, so this looks great, everything looks fantastic, there are no surprises, they know what to expect, we send the invoice over, they purchase in full, and then we move into what we just talked about, where we start, either we do it, and next slide, maybe the next, sorry. And then we start moving into what we were talking about before, where we could either approve through the proposal, they could purchase off the actual rendering, and then the orders are starting to be tracked in Mydoma. So all of the logistics planning, the storage coordination, delivery scheduling, all of that install coordination and management, that's the next stage what we talk about. And this one, it gets kind of quiet, but we let them know that we will continually be in contact with them throughout the process. So for example, we have something called Tanna's Thorough Thursdays. So we let them know that there is one day a week that we will contact you throughout the life of your project. And we also ask them to consolidate their questions as well. And every Thursday morning, if they have questions, please send those Thursday morning. We will respond by the end of the afternoon if we didn't have a scheduled call that day. And also, we let them know too, if there are other things that we're going to be adding in their files and media on Mydoma, we'll let them know to check that. And on occasion, we'll do this just to stay in touch. If this is going to be a long life cycle, then we will start adding things in. Maybe there are project photos, maybe there's process photos, maybe there is additional information that we want them to take a look at for product information. We'll add that into their files and media and send them messages to let them know. Okay, next. And the next is the completion. And this is as important as everything that we're doing. This is also as important when we've talked about that buy-in from the onboarding, the completion is the same, because we never want to leave anything on the table. This is a great, great opportunity to complete everything that we've done and to continue the sale, so to speak. So in their files and media, we will actually include a couple photos. So here is a before photo and an after photo that we have a recent project. So we'll include those. We usually typically don't put all of the photos. We actually give them a nice photo book when we're done with the project, but we will, you can move to the next slide. But we will have a red carpet meeting. So at the end of all of our projects, we roll out the red carpet, all of our full service projects. So we will have a red carpet meeting, and this will actually talk about all the things that we want to achieve. So we want to have that 5-star review. We want to have 5 referrals. We want to talk about the 5 new elements we added in their project. So this is a really, really big, important meeting to close the project. We'll talk about their styling plan and, of course, the photo session, and really involve them. So at the end of the project, they don't feel, okay, everything's done, you know, we'll just put you off. No, 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 this is a really, really, really big deal. Just like it was when they onboarded, it's a really big idea to complete this, you know, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm. And then we'll also let them know that we'll be including a closing package. And so in their files and media, we will have a closing package. If there was anything that we talked about throughout the life of the project, if maybe they were looking for a carpet cleaner or dry cleaner or house cleaning or whatever the case may be, maybe it was a winery that we talked about if they need references. Whatever it was during that, we'll add a closing package as well. And we'll also make sure that they have all of our social media and all of those things within this package. And then we'll also include things from our resource page. So just to continue this, we might say, and make sure you stay in contact with us on our resource page. We have a TBD shop, where we'll provide a curated list of our online showroom products and so on, just so we can kind of keep that passive income coming throughout until their next project. Oh my gosh, I did good. Okay. So we thought we would break here and talk about questions. There's a ton of information, and I wanted to kind of get through that as quickly as I can to get to questions. And then after these questions, we'll move into just the transition and talking about virtual design and using the rendering and visualizer.
Okay, so we have one question from Catherine. She said, do you have fixed price packages for each service you offer, or is the price customized to the scope of work for each individual project?
So I have a flat fee for each package, and all of that is front stage on our website, and all of those are built in through a Mydoma package. That answers it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And I guess we should mention that you also, if someone needs extra time, they need to purchase that and to keep your scope of work kind of within a certain time frame, correct?
Right. And I guess we can quickly tap on that for scope of work. So there's a couple things along these lines. So first of all, I'm just going to back up real quick, and this might answer a couple questions, and maybe to your point, Rebecca, for the scope of work. When we actually, before we exchange any money, we have a design service agreement. So at the very, very beginning, before we exchange any money, before their initial design consultation, we do a design services agreement. That then holds for the entire life. If they come back, whenever, that is in their file. The next step, after they actually purchase one of our packages, whether it be a full service, a consultation, or a virtual, there is a scope of the services contract. And that actually highlights the actual project that they purchased. And to talk about scope of work and scope creep and such that I kind of skipped over earlier, that actually then highlights just what they purchased. So it has been a real good barrier to scope creep. So if there were another project, for example, if we were walking out and we were doing the 3 rooms, the living room and the dining room and the entry, and we're walking out at the close of that project, and they're like, oh, can you just pop in my powder room? I don't need very much. I just need some new flooring and maybe some wallpaper, maybe wainscot. Probably a new vanity and a new seat, maybe. Oh, and some lighting. That's it. Can we just throw that in? So that helps when we're doing that scope of the services. I'm like, sure, we can just add on to that contract and add a new package. I'll send that.
That's perfect. So Catherine is also asking, so just to clarify between the concept and the design meeting, is your concept meeting where you're using the Mydoma mood board just high level to show the look and feel of items? Example, not individual project selections. And then your final design meeting is all the actual selections.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. So our concept meeting with our ideation session is that we already, we know from the very beginning, we looked at the space when we went to the initial design consultation, and we thought, okay, so just for example, I have tier 1, 2, and 3. So I look at the space and I think, okay, tier 1 is $100,000 room, tier 2 is $250, tier 3 is $500. So this is a $100,000 room. This is probably based on what they've shown me on their Pinterest board, what the looks that they're looking at on my website as far as what they want their room to look like. This is a $60,000 room. This is a $30,000. So we've already kind of figured this out. So our mood board reflects almost exactly what they're going to see, but not completely. So I might suggest, so we have the sofa. We're looking at maybe 2/1. Do you like this look? Like, oh, I don't want a bench seat. I want 3 cushions. No problem. Easy change. So those changes between that concept and that execute stage are minor, but we also want them during that ideation session to be a part of it, so we get that buy-in. So it's really tight that these are their choices. So when we go to the execute stage and ask for that $100,000 invoice for furnishings, it's without question that they're like, yes, because that's everything that I picked. I love it.
Great. Anyone else have any questions about Tanna's process before we move on to rendering and no? Okay. Great job, Tanna. So I'll mute myself again and let you continue.
Okay, sounds good. thanks guys for being patient. I was a little rattled after that crazy start, and then, but anyway, okay. So now what we just wanted to do a transition and talk a little bit about generating additional income using virtual design, and talking, kind of tying this into the visualizer in Mydoma and using the renders. And so we'll move through this, and next slide, and to kind of go back to what we were talking about when all the changes happened in 2020, that we also saw a big opportunity to diversify, and actually not even an opportunity, a need to diversify. So big picture, when we're talking about doubling income with that big title of this webinar, is there's a lot of things obviously that I did. There's a lot of things outside of just this virtual, reducing overhead and several different things. But with that said, I still wanted to reach. I had a reach throughout the state. I still wanted to reach those clients. And I was also seeing interest from outside of the state. And so I wanted to somehow capitalize on that and turn that into a revenue generating activity. So we first started there. So we would, like we said, way back when, we would get all these text messages and questions and DMs and whatnot, and what's this, what's that, how do you do this, how do you do that? And so we thought, well, let's turn that into an income stream. So we started with Talk with Tanna, and 30, 60, 90-minute Talk with Tanna, just a simple recap email, and that was fabulous. So we added that into one of our day plans where we're in the office, and it just pumped up the revenue there. Then we had clients that were thinking, okay, we don't really want the full service right now. We're not sure which direction we want to go, but we still want the input of a designer, and we're located in New York. Can you help? You bet. And so then we designed the virtual interior design room guide, where again, this is just one 30-minute Zoom meeting. And then we use our visualizer and all of our beautiful rendering to showcase our story in the preliminary design stage, and then send them, various things that they need through that room guide, if it be samples and whatnot. So with that said, we realized that we could actually, virtualize all of our consultations, all of our packages. So from there, we really started to deep dive into how can we do this. So obviously, with our business management tool, that reaches everywhere, Mydoma. We also knew that we could use our Loom and our Zoom. We found ways to send samples anywhere within the states. We then perfected our specification book and realized we could automate that. And then, of course, these gorgeous renderings were fabulous in telling our story and selling our story and selling our product. And then we included affiliate links to take that away, that purchasing issue or opportunity, and elevated it that way. So it's been a great opportunity. It's been a virtual arm that has increased our revenue, and it's been a really a pump for business that we're now seeing to go across all of our consultations. Next. And another piece of that I want to talk about is the opportunity of what we can do with this virtual and with these renderings, and how it can actually add additional income. So another big arm, we mentioned it just a minute ago, were the affiliate links. And so we actually put together a resources page, and the resources page on our website is primarily for lead generation and for passive income. And that in itself has been crazy. I have a stat too that I pulled from just the last couple of weeks. As of last Monday, our email marketing has increased 1,600%, 1,600%. I couldn't even believe the number. And that is a big, 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 big contributor because of Mydoma. Everything that we're doing, we're having them go through the Mydoma package. So for example, on our resources page, we have something we've coined the TBD shop. And we are, from popular demand, with popular projects that we get constant questions, where do you buy this? Where do we get this? Where do we get this? So we're posting those actual projects on our resources page. They have to go through, it's a free package. They go through Mydoma to purchase. And then we have similar items linked and curated through affiliates. So we're doing that on our page. We get a lot of hits on that, and we update that frequently. We also have another that we call decor bundles. And there's a couple pictured here, the home office and home wardrobe. We actually use the renderings as our feature image, so that we can change up anytime, anywhere, any way. So right now we're focusing on home office and home wardrobe. And the same thing, you buy a free package, and then all of those items are linked through affiliates within that package. There are a few others that we have, just save finds. So it's just a different way to package, just a different look. Instead of having the actual package front stage, we'll actually list, or we'll actually picture the products. And sometimes we'll pick on a certain vendor, or we'll have a theme or a colorway. So we'll have that on our resources page. Clients will go in and say, oh, I really like this occasional chair. I'll click on that. It opens up to a save find package. They go through, they enter their information. And then also I might say, once they do that, they're also in our studio. So then when they go into our files and media to actually tap on the package to open, they see the other things. They see the welcome video to better get an understanding how to use our studio. There's another video embedded that is a video to watch how to get the best experience when shopping our online trade showroom. They also get a free paint palette. So there's all these ways that we're nurturing these passive income prospects into possibly new clients. And then there are a few other ways that we're doing this. Gift certificates. When I buy the gift certificate, it's kind of a two-prong a lead generator. We're getting the email address for the purchaser and for the recipient, and it's been beautiful. So I'll move to the next before I get into the blog. And then again, with the creative marketing content, we actually have really excelled with this, and we're loving using the renders on our blog posts. And again, shoppable renders. So on occasion, we'll do an entire blog post with render images, and we get a lot of comments that they think it's real, and where do we get this? And so we started to add affiliate links so they can shop those renders. Our goal for 2023 is to have the virtual video renders and shoppable on our blogs. And then we're also doing a lot of social media posts with the renders. So the render to reality is a big hit. It's a great way for us to demonstrate our capability. And often we'll do the before photos and the render and the after. And it's, again, it's a great marketing tool. Did it. I did it. 10:45.
Yeah, under time. Congrats. So it looks like I missed a few questions here before kind of talking about process. So I'll ask a few of them. So someone asked, the training it takes to have the client understand how to use this seems expensive. Is it really, or can you simplify it by sending them links to click and approve?
Sure. One little trick to that I found is just starting from the very beginning. And I think that's why I kind of went off on this onboarding and how it could be a missed opportunity if we don't take advantage of it. And that is way in the very beginning of your process. So I think that's really key. Also, that complimentary discovery call at the very beginning at the vetting process, I have to say, honestly, in the time that I've used Mydoma, and this is an honest comment, I think maybe I've had 2 people have issue with it, and I have heard from them through an email, and the vulgarity and such that they use, I thought, oh, thank goodness, this is what my vetting process is all about, because it truly is a window into how I want to work and how I do work. So I think at the very beginning, it's important to know that for me, that my clients do understand it, because, oh goodness, hold on, because there's a lot of automation that's throughout my entire process and forever working with me. But I do think that that initial discovery call is a great time just to overcome any objections in relation to that. If they had an issue for some reason, if it didn't make sense, if they weren't sure if you were calling or if they were supposed to call you, even little things like that are important, I think, to really start talking about, and then through each step, really spend the time. And like I said, even on the concept where I'm with my iPad, with my phone, showing them the mood board that way. So then you're right in their project, and it's just a quick review, really easy just to continue that conversation.
Hey, awesome. Pam asked, have you worked with a client fully virtually? If so, how do you recommend getting accurate measurements from a potential client through a Zoom call during the discovery step?
Right. One great thing is Mydoma actually, within my welcome packet, I have it embedded, but Mydoma actually curated it, actually put it together, and it has step-by-step on how to measure, how to take photos. It's pretty basic, but it is a step-by-step, and I do include that in my packet when I do my virtual clients. And then I also, just a side note, I also have in my contract that I am not responsible if the measurements are a tad off, but I do talk with them about that. And if on a Zoom call, we've already had that conversation where they've already sent that information in. So when the next step, we're on the Zoom call, we verify. And so I might, if there is a question where we're going, I just had a client in Manhattan and they had a big heat pump or something going up through the living room, and that wasn't depicted on the information that she sent me. So when we did the Zoom call, we just did a quick scan and we looked through and we measured from one wall to this big heat vent, because now my 8-foot sofa didn't work. So now we had to reduce. So certain things like that, I think it's just keeping that communication open and making sure you're just covering all the steps.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Glad that you're getting use out of that measuring guide. That's perfect. Someone asked if they could, if we could provide it, and yeah, we'll provide it in the email with the recording. Okay, a couple questions about what software/program you use to generate your spec sheets.
Oh, okay. So that is that's a specification book class that I took through Luann Nigera, and it's actually a spreadsheet form. So I use that through Drive, the actual spreadsheet. Excuse me, but the actual process itself is quite extensive. And it was called, I could get the information to you that you could send out, but it is through Luann Nigera's Lu University.
Awesome. Okay, let me just check. Oh, lots of questions. Okay, lots of questions in the Q&A box. So,
okay.
How long does your full design process take?
Full design from step 1 to step 6. So depending on the scope of the project, depending if it is full service, specialty consultation, or virtual, it will depend. But full service, for the purpose of what we're talking about today with the furniture and styling, that could take anywhere from, I usually do 2 to 4 weeks between steps. So again, depending. So for example, if we met on week 1 for the initial design consultation, that concept appointment could be 2 weeks after. That next appointment could be 2 weeks after. Now, in my old camp, I was doing every 4 weeks. And I'll tell you that I've tightened things so tight that now I know exactly, the vendor selection, who I'm going to. My sample library is full. So a lot of things have changed for me. So I really tightened up that lead time. But just, I guess, a note, on Thursdays, for example, is the only day that I do launch meetings and initial design consultations. I only do 2 appointments on Thursdays, and I stagger them each time. So if this makes sense, I'll do a launch meeting at 10:30. I do initial design consultation at 1:30, and then they just rotate throughout each 2 weeks. And so, if that makes sense, layering them.
Your processes are on point. Someone asks, it sounds like you measure and photo the site from a virtual office during onboarding before payment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ask that one more time.
It sounds like you measure and photo site from a virtual office during onboarding before payment. Might need to get a little bit more clarification on the question.
Maybe asking if I do the measurements and photos before payment. So measurement and photo happen at the initial design consultation, and that is a paid service. That is part of the discovery phase. And I do this for a couple different reasons. I do it because we're in a casual setting. We're talking about the space. We're talking about investment planning. It's a time for me to really digest what's happening, asking them, more about their project. And then next phase, when we move into the concept, I don't have to go back and do that again. I can move directly into, if they onboard, then I can start my rendering, wireframe. I can start that process. That makes sense.
Okay, perfect. So someone asks, could you please explain the difference between your virtual interior design room guide package and your virtual concept design consultation package?
Sure. So the room guide, it's almost just the scope of the services within each package. So the room guide is a limited. So there is a one space limited amount that we're going to give to them. And the conceptual design is just a little bit more robust. It might, without going into, it might be a good idea just even a peek. I have everything front stage, so the full description in on the website. It might be a good idea to take a peek at that. And then if you have more questions specifically, then I could answer them later. Does that sound good? But it's just the conceptual design is just more robust.
Okay. Someone asks, to clarify, how many hours do you spend from onboarding to ordering products, and how much more time in the client's home on styling?
Okay, ask it one more time. How much time?
How many hours do you spend from onboarding to ordering products, and how much more time in the client's home on styling? I guess it would depend project to project, right?
Yeah, it will depend. Yeah, it will depend between project. As far as, maybe to answer it this way, so front stage on the actual projects, the client-facing information, I will actually show how many hours that we will spend, so how much time we will spend. They'll know exactly, we'll have 2 appointments, one will be 90 minutes, one will be 30 minutes. And that will show for the client, if that answers that piece. Backstage, my process behind the scene will depend per project. Again, I've worked really hard to tighten up and to only work on the projects that I can do quickly and within my part-time hours. So it will depend. And I guess I could ask styling, depending on the scope of the project again too. If it's a three-room styling project for one of our actual full services, it may take a half a day, depending on the scope. If it's out of our specialty consultation for one room, it might take an hour. So it just kind of depends.
Awesome. Someone says, on this topic of virtual measurements, have you tried having the clients use the Canvas app or any other measurement app?
Sure, there's a ton of apps that they use, and that's usually what they do send. They'll use an app and they'll send that information.
Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
Somebody asks, with eDesign, how do you get clients to send the measurements and pictures in a timely manner?
So let's see, back to, I guess, that communication up front and that welcome packet and that onboarding. I love this so much because we actually have parameters and expectations, and we let them know why they need to expedite this and how important it is. And so we will give those parameters when we first talk with them, when we need that information. And I think it's been a learning lesson for me to kind of corral this, because prior to Mydoma and working through this process, I was chasing a lot of things. And I was chasing that, for example. I was chasing, return calls and chasing information. So I've really, with this new process, I've honed in on that welcome packet and that communication and that onboarding, so they know exactly what to expect and when we need it to be successful.
Okay, awesome. For virtual design services, are you doing drawings for full renovations or just decorating/finishes?
So ask me one more time.
For virtual design services, are you doing drawings for full renovations or just decorating/furnishings?
Both. So now what we've done, when we eased into in 2020, when we weren't doing virtual design before, we were doing a hybrid and doing, remote, where we would do on-site and virtual. But when we moved into doing virtual completely, we've eased into now doing virtual for all of our specialty consultations. So we're doing everything from renovations to decor and styling. And that is why we've really up-leveled and added in that automated specification book, which works for the contractor, the trades, and the homeowner, and a lot of different options to get materials virtually. So yeah, so now we're doing it for everything.
Awesome. Lots of questions, Tanna. People are very interested in your process.
Through this. Well, I rattled through so fast, a little unshuffled, so I hope that it all is making sense.
I think it was really good. Okay, someone's asking, do you hire someone to manage and update your projects and services on Mydoma?
No. I do the twofold. I do have a marketing team, and I do have a website strategist and whatnot that does help me with, for example, all of my features are in Canva, and I have her help me with make those beautiful, and so they're embedded in my website perfectly. On the backstage, I do all of my updates, and that's what I love about Mydoma, because it is so easy, and I am a solopreneur, so I'm in there all the time, you know, updating this, updating that, changing pricing, updating content, etc.
Awesome.
Super easy.
Jillian asks, what do you outsource to be able to keep your working hours so tight? How do you find these people?
Okay, so let's see, find the people. What's that? Surround yourself. You're the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So as far as networking, I think that's key. And I have to say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you right now, Mydoma, but I have probably met maybe 95% of the people that I work with through Mydoma contacts. And it's just building that network and asking those questions of others that have succeeded before you and what they've done and who they've talked to, honestly. And that's where I literally have found I worked with a coach, I worked with a web designer, all of these people I was referred to from Mydoma. So that's one thing. As far as outsourcing, that one little statement that I made prior about revenue generating activities and how I was just, spinning my wheels doing all these kind of crazy things, and I either eliminated it or outsourced it. So that was the first thing, I guess. Prioritize what you really need in your life or in your career, and then decide which things that you want to do or can do, and then outsource the rest. So I outsource all of even though I love marketing all day long, and it's my background, I know the ROI and the return, on outsourcing. So I outsource all of my marketing, I outsource all of my web design, I outsource all of my accounting, financials, and bookkeeping, anything to do with numbers, I outsource, and then I do the rest.
Awesome.
I guess I'll add to that really quickly. Someone did ask me the other day about the renderings and that they outsource their renderings. And that was something that I considered because I had done my manual my entire life. And then I met eDesign Tribe and now the visualizer, and I do my own renderings. And it is the easiest and funnest part of my job.
That's awesome. Yeah, Tanna does all of her renderings by herself in Mydoma, and they look great. Where are all the products coming from? A trade source or retail, or I guess a mix of both?
When I'm using the Mydoma clipper and putting them in the catalog, maybe, is that what we're talking about? If that's the case, yes. Yeah. So so for me, then I am going to all of my vendors and product clipping off of my choice vendors that I use and putting those in the catalog. Also, Mydoma has vendors embedded within Mydoma that you can also clip from. And then, of course, depending on how you're using it, if you're using affiliate links and you're clipping off retail, you could do that. You could use it for anything virtually.
Awesome. Do you start the rendering in a system before Mydoma? I think this is referring to maybe something like AutoCAD or another system, or do you just start it right in Mydoma?
I start it right in Mydoma. I know some will do SketchUp and Mydoma together. I find that Mydoma, the renderings tell the story beautifully, and they're so detailed and it's so easy that I just use Mydoma for everything.
Okay, that's great. So it's super easy for a beginner, you would say. You don't need to know how to use the complicated rendering softwares.
Not at all. I would have considered myself a beginner. I went through from drawing right into the visualizer, and it's so easy. And more importantly, the courses and the information and the community development that they provide, there's always information. It's just you won't be disappointed. They're constantly pushing out training, and there's training videos within Mydoma too that you can revisit all the time.
Awesome. So many questions, and I think we're running out of time here. So I'm going to close off the question period because Tanna is also available for coaching and to answer any questions that you might have. So I'll leave this QR code up here for a few seconds. So if you scan it, this will bring you to her coaching page on her website where you can learn more. And if you want to chat about that a bit, Tanna.
Sure. Let's see. Well, from the very beginning of our conversation, I talked about my other career where I perfected my craft and my process and then moved into training and development. Well, it's kind of habitual for me. So now what I'm doing is I have actually repeated. I knew I loved that. And now I've married my two loves, is working with others and design. So now I've actually worked years and years on this process. And now I'm helping other designers, maybe like yourself, achieve the same success I have. And I do the same process where I have a complimentary discovery call for coaching clients. And then we move into a 1 hour initial design consultation for coaching. And it's just a time for us to decide which direction you want to go. And then of course we move into more. If you're interested, I do 2 hour, half day, a day and a half. I have clients that I meet with once a week or once a month. I have a couple that I work with once a year. We're going to meet again end of January. We talk about goal setting, and it's just a great opportunity. I am a solopreneur, so I am in that camp where I'm looking at, minimizing the overhead and time and maximizing profit. So that's how I scale. So that's kind of my focus. I do have a few that I'm working with that have other employees in their business, but most are the solopreneur. It doesn't matter if you just started or if you're in business for years and years and years and years. It's a great opportunity to work with another designer. The coaching with intent. So when I started Tanna by Design, I wanted to have the name Tanna for my legacy, hopefully giving it to my daughter one day. And then by design was by definition on purpose, purposeful, with intent, intentional. So that's why it's coaching with intent.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tanna.
Yeah.
And then if you would like to replicate any of the processes or possibly get on the visualizer, scan this code to bring you to Mydoma's free trial. You can try it out for free, completely free, no credit card required, and just start playing around and seeing if it could possibly help you tighten up your processes and replicate some of the success that Tanna's had. And we're also running our Black Friday sale right now, so I would also recommend you checking that out. So thank you so much, Tanna, for coming on here and teaching everyone about the success that you've had and how to possibly replicate it for yourself. I think this has been a really valuable webinar for everyone, and we're so grateful for your time.
Good. I'm so glad. I hope I didn't talk too fast. Everyone have a wonderful holiday.